what are some tools? So like if you do notice someone has a weakness in an area, what's a tool that they can use to improve it? Like, do you have an example of?
Concentration is the ability to be in the moment. So strategies that we do that is mindfulness exercises, is resetting exercises. So just trying to integrate that into some of the sports that don't do it naturally. So it's transferring that into the sport.
So today we're talking about peak mental game. That's your bread and butter. You know, I know you well through the Hodokan system, through Papa-san, my father. I know your background fairly, you know. I know with the military, now you're working with professional baseball, if I'm not mistaken. So my personal experience with you is on the mat with judo. Yes. So I got to see your expertise, and, you know, there's no doubt that you have it. And so, you know, it looks to me that now that even though you're retired from the military, you're still, you know, your bread and butter is still the mental game more than anything. And so today we'll be talking about that. And so we'll kickstart with the first question, which is, so on your website it says, build the mind and performance will follow. What does that mean? When you're saying that, what do you mean by that?
Everything that we do starts in the mind. Really, everything starts in the mind. If I decide that I want to do better tomorrow and I want to be organized, I'm thinking, I need to prepare, I need to get my clothes ready, I need to do what I need to do. So everything starts here. And then once you build the tools that are necessary for you to be successful in your mind, and you begin to commit to them, and you begin to work with them, then performance will follow. So you commit to whatever, and that happens in the mind, happens in the heart, and then everything else will begin to fall into play because you are actually, you know, doing something you committed to. So for me, that's what it means. It means that there are some things that we need to do, you know, mentally, in order for us to reach our maximum capacity. And that will be the first domino that falls, and everything else just kind of falls into place. And one of the challenges when it comes to this, and what I get a lot of pushback from some of the elite level athletes, is that they will say, well, I didn't need any of the mental stuff throughout my career. I've been doing well, and I'm here, and I'm in this level of baseball, and I'm in this level of judo. And I said, well, it is true. With your physical capacity, you might be able to subdue a lot of opponents along the way until you get to a level where everybody's as good as you are or better. And then it's the mental battle starts. And then if you're not ready, now you're frustrated and you're running in place and you're not moving and you're seeing plateaus and you're saying, what's happening? I never had this issue before. But if you work on your mental skills, then when you get to that point, then it becomes more of a, wait a second, I know what to do. Because I already have this tool in my back pocket, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We're in Florida now. It's funny, I used to say to people, I used to use a Disney analogy. I would say, you know, you look at Disneyland, the guy had an idea in his mind, right? And then all of a sudden now you can actually walk through the park. And I tell people a lot of times, I don't exactly know how I'm going to do it, but it starts in the mind. Like, I know I'm going to do it. I have this idea, but one day you're going to walk through my Disneyland park. It's not made yet, but one day you're going to walk through it. And it sounds very similar, or it just made me think of what you were kind of saying there.
Yeah.
So do you think that people are born with a higher capacity for mental strength, or do you think it's something that you foster over a lifetime or can grow?
This is an interesting question because I think we are wired in certain ways. There are some elements of our personality that come with us that make some aspects of the mental game to be easier or harder. Now, the requirement of the mental game is still there, right? So let's just take concentration as one of the 7 mental skills that I teach through Peak Mental Game. Concentration, the ability to be in the moment. Some people are really good at that. They are locked in, nothing gets in the way. And there's others who get distracted by everything, by nature. They can be in a classroom and somebody says something and they're just over there looking. They lose focus. So those individuals need to recognize that because they're not wired to be locked in as easily, it's going to be something that they're going to have to do with more intentionality. So you're going to have to work. The same thing with people that are high levels of emotion. There are people that we call, they have short fuse. They get angry very fast. So There are people you can call them whatever, and they'll still be okay. No, don't bother me.
Right.
But there are others that you look at them wrong, and they're like, "Hey, what do you got?"
Right.
And so those individuals require a capacity or skills to be able to keep themselves calm. So, are we born with all the qualities? Probably not. Are we born with some qualities already innate into our personality, into the way that we are wired? Yes. But do you know what those are? Then that becomes the question. Do you know what's your strengths and what are the areas that you need to continue to improve, or that you need to have some tools in place to be able to work? And I'm pretty sure along the way we'll talk about this mental skills and the mental tools, because they're being used in psychology in different areas, but for sport I use them in a different way. And we can talk about that a little more.
I mean, you were just making me think of it. So you said a number there too. You said there's 7, right? I think you said 7 things. So I'm curious what those 7 things are. I love the idea of just simply knowing yourself, self-awareness, and what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Some people are going to be wired certain ways. That just makes complete sense. But yeah, so what are those 7 things someone might look for?
So in the Peak Mental Game program has 7 mental skills. And the reason I call them skills is because there are things that you can measure, you can train, and you can improve on. So, and then there's 8 mental tools that I use with my student athletes or with my athletes that helps them, improve those skills. So we'll go through the skills first. Motivation. Motivation is whether it's intrinsic, extrinsic, whatever drives you, whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, what makes you do the things that you need to do, pay the price, sacrifices. Do you have that motivation? And then second is composure. Do you recognize how to use your emotions in your favor? How to find ways to know when your energy is too high to bring it down, when your energy is too low to bring it up? Do you understand those things? Concentration, as we already talked about, which is the ability to be in the moment, the ability to maximize your focus into whatever you're doing, which again, in the martial arts, we do very well at that because we practice, it's embedded into what we do. The next one is confidence. Confidence is the goal of the mental game. And is it high, low, depending on the situation? Is it variable depending on what happened on the last play or on the last fight or the last tournament you went? How cemented your confidence is. So, and then the next one is resilience, which can be disguised as, a capacity to adaptability. And then I had 2 more, which I have added recently and I've been working with my athletes. And the first one is the ability and willingness to ask for help when needed. Okay, so like I know I'm stuck and I'm not going to ask my teacher, my peers, my mentors, because I want to figure this out on my own. But then you do it so badly and so intentionally they don't want to ask for help, then now it's too far for you to come back. You damage your career, your opportunity so far because you were not willing to ask for help. You didn't have the ability or willingness. And the last one is the ability to control immediate gratification. And this is not just it's not associated with just being out there not drinking and not doing pleasures of life. I'm talking about and the way that I define it is this, very simple for my athletes, especially for the younger ones. Can you do what you need to do before you do what you want to do? So that's a way to define it. Like there are things that as an athlete, as a professional, as a student, I need to do. Do I have the capacity to focus on those things, get them done before I go do the video game or go out to watch a movie or to entertain or whatever? No, sometimes we need a break, right? Because we're working hard, so we need to take a break. But do you do the critical things that are important to your performance before you decided to go out and do whatever you want to satisfy your own, immediate gratification, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Wow, that was like a boatload of knowledge right there. So now you got me thinking, what are some tools? So like if you do notice, all right, you have these 7 things and you notice someone has a weakness in an area, what's a tool that they can use to improve it? Like, do you have an example of any of those?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's just take motivation, for example. Motivation, which is probably the one that, there's so many psychological studies about how do people get motivated. I said intrinsically, people that have intrinsic motivation are stronger than people that are extrinsic. And I think we have found a combination of those things is what's best. So, but for example, one of the tools that I have that I use is 8 tools I mentioned before. That we can talk about them independently, but one of them is journaling, for example. So I ask the athletes to do what I call a success map, which is I walk them through a goal setting exercise at the beginning of the year, right? Now, that goal setting exercise includes the why. Why do you do what you do? What motivates you, what takes you away from it. We get to understand what that is together. And then every week throughout the semester, if we're talking about high school student athletes, or throughout the season, they get to assess every Friday. I'll send them a link, for example. And then I say, evaluate your goals, see where you are, read your why, identify if it's still as strong as it was at the beginning of the semester. And if not, what will you modify to keep it strong? And that's a weekly check-in. So I think that's in particular with the motivation. We do some soul searching. We try to identify what is it that really gets you going, what helps you to do what you need to do. And then after that, then we decide, okay, how do we make sure that we continue to fuel that? And there's some athletes that need to see it every day. So I tell them, take your why, write it down, put it on the mirror. And when you're brushing your teeth, see it and read it and reconnect with it. The day that it's not strong enough, then rewrite it and find a different reason to get motivated, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic.
How about a picture?
Picture works.
I
That
used to do
picture
that a lot.
used to be. I used to do that for when I was in college. The guy in the top of the division, as I'm shaving, I'm talking to him. Sometimes it will motivate me to get up in the morning and run.
Right.
Like I didn't want to get up. Like I bet you this guy is running. He might have not been, but I know that in my mind he was.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, there's a boatload of tools there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many you would want to dive into, but maybe one more.
Yeah, for a different
one.
Okay, so let's just talk about a different skill. So let's do confidence, for example.
Is it too much to do one for each?
No, we can do one
Let's
for
see
each.
if we can.
So the first one, motivation, we drove into the goal setting, we drove into the journaling. So the next one then becomes concentration. So let's just say concentration, which is the first of the C's. Concentration is the ability to be in the moment. So strategies that we do that is mindfulness exercises, is resetting exercises, is what we used to do in practice. Right before we went into a session, we center ourselves, we focus, and then at the end of it, we did it again. We savor the practice. So just trying to integrate that into some of the sports that don't do it naturally.
Right.
So baseball doesn't do it. Like basketball doesn't do it, but my athletes. Martial arts is what we do.
Yeah,
it's part of our thing. So it's transferring that into the sport. For composure, is the ability to first be self-aware and recognize where you are so you can manage your energy. So for example, I wake up in the morning and today might not be the day that I feel ready. So where's my highlight reel for me to get remotivated? Where's my music playlist that will get me fired up so I can elevate it? Now, if I'm too anxious, if I'm too nervous, if I'm too wired, how can I bring myself down? Through breathing, through saying meditation, through walking around. Now, understanding what my level is to compete at the best. But some people need higher numbers. Some people need lower numbers. So how do we get to the number that is yours? So it's self-awareness and knowing where you are. The confidence is the next one. So one of the tools and strategies for confidence is to help, for example, have them rethink the way that they evaluate their day. A lot of times our mind naturally wants to go to the negative. Always. We've been wired that way by the news, by everything else. You call family, hey, how's it going?
Gossip,
well, this guy got in trouble. This other guy over here did this. So how can we reprogram a elite level performance in the mind is to say, don't give yourself permission to go to the negative until you find at least 2 or 3 things that went well today. So that helps them keep the confidence, maintain it. When it comes to the assistance to ask for help or resilience, we talk about the aspect of understanding that we learn from adversity. So it's a perspective change. It is something bad is happening to me. I say, well, how are you going to be better on the other end of it? It's just the internalization of whatever negative stuff is going on in their lives, so they can say and recognize that you get stronger on the other side of adversity. So that's, again, it's just a lot of talk therapy, a lot of conversations on that. When it comes to the aspect of asking for help, is number one is ask them, how willing are you to do this? Looking at the personality traits, and there's some that they already have people to go to. I know I can talk to my dad, I can talk to my brother, see if I need help, but I can use the resources that are here. And then what is it that gets in the way of that? Just trying to make sure that they have in their phone the capacity to reach out to you. All my P&G athletes have an app. I tell them that I am their mental skills coach in their back pocket. All they got to do is reach in their back pocket and type a question. Hey, Dr. M, I'm about to do a big tournament. What do you got for me? I'm feeling a little nervous. What do you got? And then it's a text interaction back and forth. It's a call.
So you get that right away?
I get it right away.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I get it right away. So it's an immediate connection.
Wow.
And so they know that it's there, and they know that we have normalized conversation to a point that I'm not going to feel different about them because they're asking. So that's on us, on the leadership aspect, to make sure that we don't minimize them what they're asking. The last one, the control of immediate gratification, is for them I do an exercise to help them recognize what are their traps for them. Every single one of us have some traps and some things that we can resist. So how do we develop some strategies to have a plan ahead of time? In college, for example, I would tell my friends, I will not, that I'm the designated driver. Like they wanted me to go party or whatever, and I was like, I'm in competition. Number one, don't ask me to do things that are going to mess with my performance. But number two, if you want me to go, then I'll be a designated driver. Don't ask me to drink. Don't ask me, because it's going to destroy my performance. So I got to delay that gratification, because I know that in a sport like judo, one bad day, you're off the team. Somebody else has your spot.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can just play games with. So again, that's an example for each one of them. I don't know if that's too much.
Yeah, no, that was like gold. I mean, you just popped through those really nicely. So it has me thinking, so you're working with the Pirates now, right? So just comparing high school kids to professional baseball players, I'm curious, are they, or even the college judo player, everybody in between, is everybody on a similar path? Like, we all have a strength, we all have a weakness, or are the professional players like light years ahead of some people? Do they already have or are they struggling too, like just as human as a high school kid?
Yeah, I would say that it's individual. It's individual dependent.
Right.
But the one thing that is critical, that confidence levels on some of these professional players is very, very high from the get-go. So they come in with high levels of confidence, and many of them, have had good coaching along the way. They had good specialized coaching, so they had strategies that they had developed themselves. And those that are elite level competitors who committed to the mental game, they're in a different stratosphere. These guys are, they become franchise players because they're physically talented above everybody else, and then they're also now prepared mentally, so they have strategies that they do, and they're the kind of an autopilot, and they're competing, and they're out doing everybody, outdoing everybody, they're beating everybody around them. When we have challenges, or when people have never been exposed to some of these tools before, and now they reach a level where everybody's talent is the same. And that's what's the biggest challenge, because now they need tools they have not been able to develop because they didn't need them before.
Right.
Like if you walk on the mat and you beat everybody all the time, do you think you need to sleep more? Do you think that you need
I'm
to?
good.
I'm good. I'm
Right.
covered. Until, as smart as my sensei was, Sensei Tomita, he would just grab me and take us to a place where we will get beat up and get a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Wait, you're not as good as you think you are.
Motivation check.
There's more training out there to be done. But in some other sports, that's not embedded until they actually reach a place where everybody's as good and the game speeds up and all of that. But, I had very few challenges with professional baseball players. The majority of them had great conversations. They know where I come from, the perspective of understanding an elite level competitor. I'm an expert on learning about people that are good.
Right.
So that's what I want to do. And my options always for them are the same. It's like, listen, if I had something to offer based on my research and performance over the last 4 years, I will offer it. If not, I want to learn from what you do, because you're another elite level athlete that I'm having a conversation with.
Right.
So I want to see if I got nothing to offer you. I'm pretty sure you got something that I can
to
learn from.
Right.
That helps us have a better relationship. So I never come into them with I'm evaluating you and you're short on this and you're short on that. Is the game last night looked challenging. What are some of the things that you were doing that you think were helping you, and what do you think that we can go research for you that can help you do more? So
yeah. And I mean, I could only imagine, even though, they're probably coming into that with a lot of, they have a really good mental game already. And some people might not even know where they're getting it from, because they're just, maybe they had the confidence, maybe they couldn't articulate it the way you just did, but they just fostered all these things.
Yeah, so a lot of them do it naturally.
Yeah.
They do it naturally. That's part of they do some of those things naturally because of what we talked about at the beginning. There are some things that we're really, really good at, and there's some things that we're not as good at that we need to be more intentional about.
And then that makes me think of the role of environment. And what do you think, what role does that play? Like, I almost think, so some of these professional athletes, right? So let's say back to when they were a kid, they were probably the most successful kid in their gymnasium, right? Or whatever it was. And that environment is fostering this from such a young age, and it's just compounding as they get older and older. But I almost think when I'm thinking about trying to change someone's mental game, how it starts within, but is there also a way to change my environment? So maybe, for example, I guess like your sensei did, right? Like he brought you to somewhere where he knew you would be beaten or knew where it would be a challenge for you. Now that stimulates you. Or I almost think if someone's getting beat up too much, that I need to find an environment where they can see some success. Or so I guess like I feel like I'm answering my own question, but the role of environment in
I believe that environment is critical. I think that's one of the things that I talked in my book about, creating some values and expectations for your team, that they know that this is something that they need to meet in order for us to be collectively successful. In my book, I talk about how we told the class of 2012 at West Point when they were freshmen, right? It was my first year back. After I was at West Point until 2001, I was a young captain. We're 5 points away from becoming national champions. Didn't happen. I'm driving away, and because we had to go different places, I wanted to stay, we couldn't. My wife convinced me, hey, we had to commit to our career, and we did, and we moved on. But then in 2008, I'm back at the academy now, and my first speech to that group was that I said, in 2001, I left the academy, and I haven't been back since, and by 5 points, we didn't become national champions. But I'm telling you what, every single one of you, I've got a room full of high school kids. This is 2008, and they're graduating in 2012. And I say, you will be the first class in the history of the United States Military Academy to be able to call yourself a champion. You'll be the first. And from that moment on, that group, they acted and behaved and trained, expecting to be champions. By 2010. The team has already become champion, and then multiple championships after that. Started to wear off by 2013. The levels of motivations, we had to be more creative on the way that we were going to implement them. But that class, they behaved differently because we expected that of them, and they moved up to the challenge. They met the expectations. So creating an environment and expectations in the environment is not a negative thing. And not everybody's going to be 100% bought in, but if you make it about the team, about the group, and about the things that we need to do together to achieve our collective goal, then it becomes something that they challenge. They will step up to the line. That's my personal perspective. And every team that I built, whether it was a platoon or a battery or judo team, it's been the same. We establish collective goals and then we're going to get after it together, and we're going to hold each other accountable to it. You know, and so that aspect of the environment that you're referring to is critical. But and sometimes I think in today's society, nobody wants to set those standards. They don't want to push buttons, or they don't want to, you know, people are going to think that that I'm too pushy. No, you have a team, you have a responsibility to build some standards in an environment where people can thrive. You know, for me, that's the definition of leadership. As a leader, I'm responsible to provide the resources and the environment for everybody in my team to get better and to reach their potential.
I love it. I love it. So, not really shifting, but it's still, there's a bunch of things that you said that made me want to ask this question, and we'll see if you get to it with me asking it. But the warrior ethos. What is the warrior ethos? Yeah. Can you explain it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll go back into, I think this is a good story that we used to tell the combative students in the Army, that I think it will give people perspective. The Marine Corps, for example, you know, you meet somebody from the Marine Corps, and like this person will go, hey, who Marines, who rather? You know, an hour into the conversation, you find out the guy's like a cook. He's like he works in the kitchen, but like his desire to show you that he's a Marine, it was unbelievable.
Correct.
Now, the military in the Army, in the initial stages of Iraq, there was one unit of administrative folks that they had a very rough going against the Republican Guard because they weren't prepared. They saw themselves as logisticians. They saw themselves as, you know, we're admin people. We're not fighters. Right. So all these different people, they didn't see themselves as warriors. So back in the day, then General Schumacher was the guy who decided to implement mandatory combatives for everybody to build the warrior ethos, meaning that indomitable spirit that will allow you to pick up your weapon and do what you need to do, regardless of what your MOS is, regardless of what your death. So, and I think we live in an era where not everybody has the desire to engage in combat with somebody else. So to me, the warrior spirit is that. Do you have that willingness to step in the line and compete and give your best for, you know, to try to defeat another competitor that's trained as hard as you have trained? Or are you going to back down from the competition? Are you going to try to, the term that I've been using with other athletes is called play to play great. Are you going to show up every day to be better than you were yesterday? To me, that's the way that we define the warrior spirit for our players. It's just, I'm here, I'm in a combative sport, and if I don't have the willingness to close the distance with the enemy or my opponent or the other competitor, then we're already not in a good spot.
Right.
Because whether you're going to win this tournament or not, I'm going to need you to wear this person down, because there's somebody else from Army Judo in this division that is going to fight this guy at some point. And whatever energy you take away from him now is going to benefit our team on the long run. And our athletes understood that. So I said, I might not win this tournament, but if my teammate won after I fought this guy for 5 minutes and he was worn out, then I made my contribution to my team.
I love the team aspect there.
Yeah.
Very motivating.
Oh, an individual sport, having it's an individual sport, but when you have that team mindset, we all fighting in this division. And there were many times that they faced each other for the championship. There was no coaches on the chairs.
Right.
They were just them, or is either Reno on one chair and I'm on the other one, and we're just looking at each other. Well, not, but there was two Army guys just facing each other on the final match. That happens sometimes. But most of the time, it was the 2 or 3 individuals in that division wearing everybody else out for one of our guys, to end up on top.
I love that, because no matter what, that gives you also a purpose, right? Because if I think that I can't beat the opponent, and then I just give up mentally. But if I think I can't beat the opponent, but I still know that my effort is going to do something to the greater purpose, I'm now still willing to give something in that ring, even if I think the opponent's better. So no matter what, it gives you a reason to fight when you have that team mindset, which is nice. And
if you have the warrior spirit to close the distance with that individual and maximize it. And that warrior ethos, that's what it's all about. It's all about, can you stand up for the team? Can you pick up the flag when it falls on the ground? Can you attack next? Can you wear this guy out? Can you find a way, or this gal, and then find a way to give the team an edge?
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't really, I wasn't in the military, so I don't know the warrior ethos, but I was reading something on it that I felt like there was something tied to goal setting or like a goal or something like that. Is a goal important?
Yeah, well, for the most part, is the goal of closing the distance with whatever you're dealing with.
Right.
So, like, if my enemy is, let's just bring it to physical education. If I'm somebody that is challenged because my muscles are not fast twitch and I can't run faster, then do I have the willingness to close with sprints and do what I need to do in order to get a little faster? Even
Right.
when I'm not going to get as fast as this other guy over here, I want to get faster myself.
Right.
So it's the willingness to close with the enemy regardless of what that enemy is.
I might also think about the fact, though, that sometimes when I think of warrior spirit in the dojo, a lot of times we're applying it to life with the kids and stuff like that. And I tell the kids all the time that, like, no matter what, whether the opponent is a physical opponent or whether the opponent is you, like, oftentimes there's a lot of those martial art quotes, like the opponent is an illusion, the real battle is against oneself, or like things like that. But I tell people all the time, so a lot of times you're going toe to toe with yourself. Like you talked about the instant gratification piece. We all have something that's our weakness, and you're gonna have to go toe to toe with that thing, whatever it is. And so that warrior spirit, even if you are not the type of person that wants to apply it to another human being, no matter what, just in life, you're going to have to apply it to yourself. And simple things, when the alarm clock goes up and off in the morning and you don't want to get up, when you have to go, the job interview, the this, the that, there's going to just be times all throughout life, you're sick, you have COVID, who know what, anything, but you're going to go toe to toe, whether you like it or not, with something.
Yeah.
And, I think building that mental capacity and the fortitude to be able to fight through and have that warrior spirit, I think, is essential for everybody in planet Earth.
No, it's 100%. You're 100%. That's why I call our biggest battles are always with us. That's the mental battle.
Right.
That's the mental battle. It's recognizing who you are, recognizing what you do well, recognizing what you don't do well, and have tools to be able to use them when you need them. It's being able to keep away distractions, so all those things are our battle. It's only you. You're the one trying to defeat it.
Yeah.
And if you don't control those, eventually they will impact the way that you lose or compete against others.
Right. Right.
So how many times, after we lost a tournament or after we lost a match, we can sit down to reflect on it and say, man, this right here is only one thing. I didn't sleep well last night. My reflexes were now what they didn't be. So I lost this match, not right in the moment. I lost this match last night when I decided to stay up until 1 o'clock on my phone. That's when I lost the match. That's when I lost the opportunity to be at my best, in the competition the next day. So that battle was against yourself, not against anybody else.
So, personal question: have you ever had a moment where your mental fortitude was challenged in your own personal life?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And that's part of our journey. And I would say, my biggest battle had to do when I first had to step off the mat as a competitor because of 3 herniated discs. I got 3 herniated discs on my back that stopped me from running and doing other things. And in a little bit of time, it began to change my life in the way that I had to approach, and I had to do bicycle only, or I had to do elliptical only. I had to do the things that I love to do. I couldn't do anymore, and I couldn't compete judo anymore. So I had to, now I'm coaching, which I did not regret coaching. At some point, something had to come to an end. But when that injury happened, there was a lot of negative self-talk in my mind about things that I wish I would have done, or wish this and that. So I use these tools on myself all the time. So every day we have a battle, every day. And anybody that tells you otherwise, then they're not living.
Yeah.
They're not living. So
whether you are an athlete, a person just living life in general, are there any problems that you think can come from getting too comfortable?
Oh, there are plenty.
Right.
And we can do that. We can do that a lot, just because naturally we're designed to save energy. We decide to just kind of survive. So a lot of times we made the decisions to I arrived to where I wanted to be, and at that moment you stop growing. You stop growing. You become locked in, and there's so much information and so much development on a constant basis. We cannot afford to be steady. What I used with my athletes 10 years ago, some of the concepts are similar, but my delivery method has to be different because it's a different generation. They receive information differently. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm over here sending texts and chat on a app, so I can keep my younger athletes engaged.
Right.
And it's just, most people my age, they don't want to be close to any new app, and I'm over here trying to figure it out just because I know that I would lose contact with my athletes if I don't do it, and I have to grow with them. And when we get comfortable and say, well, I got what I got, and if you want it, then come to me, then there's way too much information out there. There's too many people having great experiences that your stuff will become irrelevant very, very fast. So you have to continue to find ways to improve, to get better.
Yeah.
With caution, because a lot of people in today's age, the growth mindset concept that was made popular by Carol Dweck recently. But this is a Jigoro kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jigoro kind of talked about growth mindset many years ago, over 200 years ago, and but people overdo it, over growth mindset. They constantly changing, adding more things,
Right.
and then they don't have some foundational stuff that they can always go to. That this is, you got to have the stuff and modify it a little bit at a time to go with times to be able to deliver it better. But have some beliefs, have some values, that you have your core that you lock in.
Yeah. As we're slowly coming to a close here, are there any, just opening the floor, anything that maybe we didn't hit that you want to share, or any final word you want to share with the group?
Yeah, I would say that as a physical educator, as a coach, as a leader, is to make the extra effort to do the homework on the people that you work with, because every single individual, the times, this is what transformational coaching and transformational leadership is all about. The times of this is the way I coach and this is the way that I do things, without any adjusting based on the personality of the folks that you have, without the emotional intelligence to recognize that this is too much for this individual and this is too little for the other one, it's doomed for failure. So take the time as a leader, as a coach, as a sensei, to learn your people, learn what drives them, learn what is that motivates them, learn how do they get pushed. What things can you say that, and it's not manipulation. Is more about you being able to have and leadership flexibility enough that you can impact and motivate people. And then again, your environment will help you and all of that. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to find a way to deliver it differently, to the folks that you have in your space, so they can be on the same team.
Yeah, that's nice to hear you say. As you said, you're approaching 60.
Yeah.
Right. So, in the military, in physical education, judo, all areas that I think historically, or maybe not all, I don't want to speak with full bias, but it's kind of like my way or the highway kind of teaching sometimes. It was like either put up or shut up. This is it, and get to it. But it's nice to hear you say that piece about the individuality. Yeah. And that's I think a key, right? Self-awareness, know what you need. You mentioned it all throughout, and then make sure it's a doctor prescribing no different than medicine.
Yeah, and you can still get people to understand that there are certain things they need to do, right? And that they got to elevate themselves to be able to get those done, and they can do it their way, as long as they contribute to the team that need to contribute. So the demands and the lines of respect, if we go back to that concept, are drawn. Now, how do we motivate each individual to get to those lines? Then becomes a different. That's what the art is. That's where the art is. That's where the science of and the art of being able to get folks to their maximum potential comes to that individual touches. And
the line sounds like a big one. The line is probably the goal, right, of what they're trying to get to. Nowadays I feel like motivation and goal setting is probably one of the it's like the essence of all things in life, right? Like, why did I come here today? I had a goal in mind. It was more, what have I ever really put that much effort into, making a trip here without this whole vision or purpose? Or, when you have that, like, people are just willing to do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. Like, I think that line and understanding that line and having that goal of whatever brings you, like I think you said before, heart too, right? Mind and heart. It's like, the passion for it. You'll push yourself further than you could imagine when the goal is right. And I think the goal is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, and it goes back to the beginning. It starts in the mind.
Yeah.
Build the mind, performance will follow.
Yeah, like Disneyland.
That's right.
So thank you so much for being
pleasure.
on here today. How can people stay connected with you?
They can find me at peakmentalgame.com.
Okay.
That's or Dr. Morales at peakmentalgame.com. So they can reach me. They can find the website there, and then
Your
find
book?
the information. The book. Yeah, this transformational coaching. So it's the story of the West Point Judo Championship era from 2009 to 2014.
Love it.
And a lot of principles in there, how to build a team from the scratch. And so if you're a developmental leader or coach, it's a good one to get to start from.